Okay, so in our last video, we marked all our locations for drilling holes and we drilled them all. And we learned the importance of not hurrying through your cuts for the sake of making a video shorter. So hopefully your holes are nice and centered like these three, but that's okay. It'll still work. The objective there for those holes is to attach our top, and it'll still do it, but oh well. Live and learn. Okay, our next thing, these stretchers are done. We should probably give them a good sanding, get all those pencil marks off, and get them all cleaned up, but I'll do that off camera another time. We are gonna go back to the legs because at this point, hopefully everybody is through the legs and we can set the table saw and the band saws up to do a little bit of a different cut. So all that's left to do with the legs is to make 8-degree angle cuts here, here, and here. And they're gonna all need to be parallel. Okay, so the first ones we're gonna do is the top and the bottom. And to make sure everything is nice and straight and everything, we're actually gonna go to the table saw to do this. And as you can see, I already have it set up. Hopefully you can tell through the video that table saw blade is tipped 8 degrees to the left. And again, if you look down here, hopefully the camera angle can see it. We are in fact 8 degrees off of 0. Okay, we should check the blade height because when the blade is angled, it may not be high enough, but as you can tell, we're looking pretty good there. Okay, and we're gonna send these through. I will help you with one of these cuts. I'd like to do your first one, but I guess I can kind of show you the process here in the video. I'm going to start with my shorter one. If yours are a little different, mine are pretty much the same. I'm going to start with the shorter one. This I'll help you with. I'll help you get this set up for the first one. I actually want to do the bottoms first. I'll do the more difficult one. Anyway, so hopefully you didn't sand either of these down so everything is still nice and square. If you take a bunch of time sanding, there's nothing square about the sanding process. You spend more time on one edge than the other, now you're crooked. Or you put more pressure on one side than the other, now you're crooked. So hopefully we left those nice and square from the miter saw. Okay, so I'm going to just try to shave off just enough to make a 8-degree angle on the bottom of these legs. So we'll see how that turns out. Okay, so again, this is the one I'll do for you. Looks like we didn't get enough, which is good. I was playing it safe. Take off a little more. There we go. And now we'll do the other one to match. Okay. So what we did is we put an 8-degree angle on the bottom of the legs. We sent them through at the exact same setting. So if you were slightly off before, that problem is now gone. So we squared everything up by sending them through at the exact same setting. Okay. And again, if you can't see due to the camera, we are at an 8-degree angle with our part now. Okay. So I did the bottom one. I'm going to have you do the top one. So again, if you're playing catch up and you're not doing this with me in class, flag me down for that step. I want to help you with that first one because technically this is a cross cut using a rip fence, which you're not supposed to do. But because we're already square and we already have all of this geometry, this would be a terribly unsafe thing to do. To take the miter saw, straighten it out, make a 8-degree bevel cut like this, that would be really dangerous. Without it being tight against the fence, you would never make that cut. So this is actually the safer one, the safest way to do it. And I did it this way, and that had minimal material against the fence, so the chance of it twisting was a little higher. You guys will be doing this one. Let's see, make sure I'm doing this right. There we go. You'll be doing this one where you have a lot of material up against the fence and you're like cutting a little. So your chance of twisting and causing a kickback is a lot less, but still we want to be extra careful with this because this is not an ideal situation. So anyway, you guys need to make sure your parts are parallel. When I sent it through, there was no cut. I was establishing what's left and what's right. So now you have to make sure you send it through the right way. So if you send it through this way, they would end up being opposite. So you got to know which way the blade is tipped and which is tipped to the left, and you got to make sure angle, everything's parallel. Okay, I did move the fence just ever so slightly so it would cut that. Hopefully you saw that. Notice how I hold it. Okay. Okay. So now we're parallel. You saw how I held it. I had a hand up here and a hand back here. Again, my concern is it tipping, so I want good pressure here and good pressure there during that cut. Okay, now we can use a nifty little tool. It's called an adjustable T-bevel, and what it's really good at is it finds an angle, locks it down, and then allows you to transfer it. So we find the 8 degree. We want to make sure we keep everything parallel, so make sure you don't flip anything. Oh, it's kind of tricky. Okay, so something like that. Okay. Now we're just going to do one from here on out just to make the video go faster, but obviously you know to do both legs. Okay. So now you have a choice. You can put this in a clamp. You can go get one of these hand saws. I got a couple here, a couple other varieties floating around, and you could just cut it by hand. Mixed results with that. You know, it's really easy to accidentally cut at an angle instead. Yeah, you want to be 8 degrees, but you want to cut straight down. I've seen a lot of people do 8 degrees, but then also bank it out. It ends up making the shoulder sloped or spiked or whatever. You can do that though. It's possible, especially if the machines aren't set up. But as you can see, hopefully, I have these two bandsaws now set up for these 8 degree angle cuts. You can see I have one blade tipped 8 degrees down and one table, I should say, tipped 8 degrees up. So now you could still mess this up if you send it through the wrong way, but my pro tip is to look at what you're about to cut here. Okay, and that should be, if this is straight, this is the correct way to do it. So we could try to line up that line. Again, let's see if I can get you a decent camera angle. Try to get that 8 degree angle to line up here. So again, this is maybe a little more challenging to get the machine set up, to get the line set up. Looks like I'm going to be kind of, from this angle, I'm going to be cutting pretty much blind. So maybe some extra lines across here would be beneficial. This is kind of a more advanced thing. We didn't used to always give you guys this option, but if you get it right, this will make the nicest, cleanest cut. So we'll give it a shot. That light might be too bright. Here we go. Okay. We'll see how I do cutting blind here. That turned out all right. Now for this one, looks like I'm going to want to go to the other saw. I still got to cut that little wedge out of there. For that, I'd have to cut like that, so maybe I'm going to have to use a handsaw for that. Now this one should be easier because now you can see I'm going right up to the corner, and now I can actually see this corner, so I'm going to actually set the blade right to the edge of it. So like I said, I highly recommend making that line here to follow. I might have cut it a little straighter if I had that line, but anyway, again, if you're more comfortable just doing it by hand so you can be nice and slow and precise, we've made lots of step stools that way. To be honest, those pieces just kind of almost chip out. Looks like you got a little bit to cut away there. Again, you can use any one of these saws. Okay. So there, we've got 8 degree, 8 degree, 8 degree. It'll be interesting, we're almost ready for a dry fit. All we got to do is left is that top. We'll talk about dry fit characteristics here coming up, but you can see we got a nice flush here. We're going to want to work on making sure this is flush. So let's see what the other side does. So it's nice and flush. Might have had a slight downward angle there because again I was trying to do that blind, and that might be a little bit of a lip here. So we'll talk about how to fix that stuff in a little bit too. But anyway, takeaway from all this would be to mark it. Mark this one. And then, not sure what side was which, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. So if we marked here, and we marked here, and then if we marked here, we only need one of these, but that's okay. So now that, if I should be able to line them both across from each other. So there, that should help if I had to tilt it this way, that's probably this cut that I would end up using that for. So that should help you a lot if you're deciding to use the table saw, or excuse me, the bandsaw to make those. Okay, so I'll get this one cut up. We'll do a dry fit. I'll kind of show you how to address some issues like that. We also got our top to just router, which is really quick and simple, and then we're ready for assembly.